This is NTV.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. 7 days into the medical workers' strike, I need to get clarification on who exactly among the medical workers is on strike for this 7th day. The strike started on 6th of November. Now it's 13th and it's been running for those many days. The strike by prosecutors is still going on. It's almost completing 2 months. Can better pay resolve issues within the health sector, resolve issues within the education sector, and issues now within the judiciary, as we have seen? To discuss that tonight, we have Dr. Sylvester Nzivwa. He is a consultant pathologist and head of the Forensic Services Department at Mulago Hospital. Dr. Nzivwa, very nice to have you.
Yeah. Good evening, viewers.
We also have Dr. Wellington Amutuhire, who is a public health practitioner, national and member of the National Governing Council of the Uganda Medical Association, and he is a Lord Councillor at representing WUMA, or the professional bodies, at Kampala Capital City Authority. Very nice to have you, Dr. Wellington Amutuhire. And of course, my colleague, Onapito Ekomoloid. Ona, very nice to have you.
I thought you were going to call me as a doctor.
No. Very nice to have you. Let me make this announcement right at the beginning of this show. We've made effort since Friday to get official government representatives to join us in this discussion. We have been unsuccessful. We had some promises and kind of confirmations from the people who make decisions and set policy for especially the health department, from the minister, permanent secretary, and others, and we haven't been successful in getting them into studio to answer the questions that you, our viewers, might have. So we'll put the questions to the workers themselves to tell us where this is headed. Let me start with you, Dr. Nzivwa. You are a consultant pathologist. You've been at this game for a long time. Can industrial action answer the questions? Now that you've been in it for 7 days, the Minister of Health has given her position on your strike. The Permanent Secretary spoke during the week about where this whole discussion is headed. And one important thing is government saying, as an association, it has no business discussing with you because you're not a union. Can this answer that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, the legalities of it, I cannot say. But when a child is hungry and a child cries, what would you say? Look for food and give that child. You don't have to, in my opinion, you don't have to go through all the formalities when your house is burning. I think the medical house is burning. And I think it's irrelevant whether this is the union, whatever it is. I think the issues are, there are issues, and these issues must be addressed, and addressed now.
When a house is burning, or if the child is hungry, those two analogies are important. If the child is just being naughty, you discipline them. You don't just feed them. Because you say, I'm feeding you. There's a saying in my language that someone says, if they give you food and you still want more, they say, for me, I treat hunger. I don't treat greed. That's what I would call it. I wouldn't call your demands greed. But if government has indicated to you, this is what we can afford, this is what we have, and we do not have the money to enhance your pay, is that difficult to understand?
No, I think it would be an unrealistic situation. I think that these issues in reality need to be addressed. I audit health as a forensic pathologist, and the situation I have seen is very pathetic. I must say the medical workers are probably not doing this for themselves. They are doing it for the country.
How do you mean?
Oh yeah, let me give you an example. Recently, I was called to handle a case of a mother who died in one of the regional hospitals. This mother had had a birth. Her first birth was by cesarean section. And so when she got the second birth, when she got the second pregnancy, she knew that the chances of having a cesarean section were very high. So she actually referred herself to a regional hospital. Now when she came to this hospital, the Caesar was supposed to be done at night. There was no electricity. There was no fuel. There were no sutures. And when the doctor ended up doing the Caesar at about 3 a.m., the mother could not be monitored, and she ended up dying. She ended up passing away. That is the pain Ugandans go through. I've had another case where I was called to do another autopsy. The mother needed to get, there were no sutures, materials for doing the operation. The doctors were there willing to do this operation.
So Dr. Nzivu, someone would say you actually are striking for the wrong reasons. You're striking for salary. You're not striking for having sutures in the hospitals. You're not striking where we saw some years back in Teso, people using candles to conduct operations. You're not striking because operation beds have rusted and are breaking.
Yeah, we had a meeting on 31st of last month with His Excellency, and actually it was to state the conditions under which we are working. Salary inclusive. Okay? Salary inclusive. I think what has come out is really a sum of all the evils that have been, the health workers have been going through. It is not only for salary, but all these other conditions. And those are what we stated to His Excellency when we met.
What was his response? What did he tell you?
Oh, his response was actually, he said he was with us. He understood what was going on.
It's not the first time the medical workers are striking. When President Museveni has been president, he said he understood medical workers before. He says he understands them now. Do you think he actually does understand or appreciates the conditions in which you work?
At least I interacted with him that day, and to me, he was genuine in the fact that he understood the situation. My issue is the solutions now.
The solutions. Let me jump to Onapito briefly, and then I'll come to you, Wellington. Do you think, Ona, that strikes or better pay, for that matter, can resolve issues in the health sector? If you could just pick and focus on that.
Well, they can if the intentions or the solutions, as Dr. Nzivu has said, are clear. But I think he has almost stated the problem. You can't debate with the demands the doctors are making. It's almost, it's a very complicated subject to discuss. To even suggest that a doctor should be unhappy. It's so sad, you know, because we all trust doctors so much. We actually go to them when we think they are the last resort. But if now the people you trust with their life are unhappy, then the patients are in trouble. The country is in trouble. I think the president some years back actually commented about Mulago in a way he said he wouldn't donate his life. So if that's the kind of, these are the kind of people who are to donate our lives and they are so unhappy, it means there is a big, big problem. But I think you put it right. The doctors, unfortunately, have not articulated their case in terms of the patient's plight and their plight combined. In fact, they should be demanding, almost if it's necessary, to close the current hospitals as they are and say we cannot work in this state and it's unfair to patients. Because even if they got the pay they're asking for, it's equivalent of someone asking for a comfortable bed in a leaking house. So at the end, it doesn't solve the problem. So I think the doctors need to reshape their demand to include better pay, but above all, better working conditions. Because they will even, in my view, they will even have a sense of guilt if they got that money to not be able to deliver the kind of services that money deserves. But I also think they are not suggesting solutions that have not been tried before. To me, many of the doctors are also in private practice, and they know it works. It's just that someone must manage the money well. Why are the doctors not costing what it will take to run these hospitals and demand that the ministry, which in my view is wasting a lot of money in non-medical related activities, gives them the money and let them be held responsible for the functioning of hospitals? Because they are the ones who are with the patients. They should say, this is the kind of money we need. We know this money is with the ministry. If it is not there, then it means national budget for health needs to be increased. But right now, the debate is without context in terms of costs. What are the costs of running a proper hospital?
You've on two separate occasions
Yes.
held privileged positions. One as a member of parliament, one as a member of parliament, and one as someone working very closely with the president. Why?
Very closely.
Very closely. Why do we end up in this cyclical debate? Because if you reflect back, during the reign of Dr. Margaret Mungerera as president of the Uganda Medical Association, and she rose to become president of the International Medical Association, she put up a spirited fight. So before we came on air, Willington was telling us intern doctors strike almost every year, but there were intense strikes in the 2000s by intern doctors at Mulago. Why doesn't this matter get attended to when it needs to be attended to?
Look, for me, my view is that in this country, the patients don't have rights. That's the saddest story, especially in terms of public health. They go to facilities where they are more like beggars. So I think part of the debate is, how do we empower patients? And how do you make public health facilities places where people go to demand? It means the funding structure as it is not sustainable. I think it's not sustainable. Why do you go to a private facility and you feel a sense of right and you'll get attended to, but when you go to a public facility, you are more at the mercy of the workers who also are at the mercy of government. So it's to whom it may concern. To me, that's the problem. There is no sense of ownership of the public health system.
We would have had someone answer some of those questions if we had Dr. Either Minister Cheng join us here or Dr. Diana Twine, the permanent secretary, but unfortunately we're not able to get them to come in. Willington, let me come to you. You are a representative of WUMA at KCCA. You are practicing a public health worker. Could you just tell me briefly who is on strike and who is not on strike? Because people don't know. Is it doctors? Is it intern doctors? Is it nurses? Is it who is on strike? Who is not?
Thank you, Charles. This is a strike for all doctors of Uganda, working for government of Uganda. Doctors working in public hospitals. So, but as time goes on, we want also to engage the private practitioners, those working in private facilities, and those working in private not-for-profit. So, all doctors under Uganda Medical Association are in the strike.
So the nurses, midwives, and others are not part of the strike?
They are not.
They are not.
Yeah.
So those should be working?
Yeah,
are they working?
Well, you see, the strike has not just begun. There has been a silent strike all over. People have not been at health facilities. Absenteeism is high. Late coming is high. So the strike of health workers in Uganda has been, I would say, indolent, has been quiet, but there. When we say as doctors that we are striking, other local health workers also take advantage. So,
but as a public health specialist,
right, don't
you feel a sense of guilt that the service is hardly there when it is needed to be there? It might be because of that silent strike that has been running for some time. But the healthcare delivery in this country is not something very proud. You have very competent health workers,
right,
but the conditions that Dr. Nzivwa talked about and the attitude of the workforce has created a lot of doubts. Ona was saying someone will feel a sense of entitlement when they go to a private health facility, but they are at the mercy of whoever is giving them the service in a public health facility. And for a long time, there's been this debate about, do these medical workers and doctors actually deserve to be paid better as they demand, if you compare that with the service they give?
Thank you, Charles. On the issue of sense of guilt, honestly, I have no sense of guilt, because a functioning healthcare system is a component of many things, of which a health worker is one. First of all, the healthcare is about quality services for all the people when they want them and where they need them. In this country, that is not there. And there are about 5 elements. One, there must be well-trained and well-remunerated workforce. That one is not there. There must be a robust funding mechanism, financing mechanism. It's not there. There must be an efficient supply chain management. It's not there. There must be at least the basic minimum medicines and technologies. So the reason why I'm not guilty is my presence at health facility. I cannot do magic. If I have no essential medicines to manage this patient, the patient will die in the hands of the health workers that my senior colleague has just articulated. So actually, I think you've not been following our industrial action. Point number 1 is the environment that we are working in. Salaries are not actually the biggest thing. The biggest thing in this case is environment that we are working in. The health facilities that we see these patients. You go to Murago, the national referral, where my senior colleague practices, the national referral. Bending down to see a patient is appalling. The beds, the theaters, the equipment. My colleagues have articulated these things before. So actually it's about the environment. We are telling the government, please organize the environment that we work in and remunerate as well.
Did you watch or listen to your minister? She gave an 8 o'clock press conference, 8 p.m. press conference, right, on Thursday evening, dismissing some of these demands and telling you either go on and work or government won't listen to you.
Charles, the leadership at the Ministry of Health really needs to understand us as partners, not as enemies. After the election of our current leadership, Uganda Medical Association, the theme is a new beginning of the healthcare system in Uganda. A new beginning. We are not actually looking at only salaries. This is just the smallest hair, the tiniest hair of the big animal. We are just the beginning. We want to sit on the table with the other actors and see how we streamline the healthcare system of Uganda. So we are actually surprised to see the leadership at the Ministry of Health in anger, with a lot of intimidation and threats, because what we want is space. So look,
but now, Doctor,
right,
what specific solutions have you people given them to change the system as we know it, because it is not working? And that's why I struggle.
Yeah.
What do the doctors want to be done differently beyond the money? How can they... First of all, I believe you know how much money is being allocated to the Ministry of Health. What are your suggestions for reallocation of this money in such a way that it becomes effectively utilized for the benefit of the Ugandan who is going to seek medical care?
Thank you, Honorable. In the first place, all of us are aware that the funding at the Ministry of Health is low. For example, we have the Health Sector Development Plan, 2015-16, 2019-2020. But what the government can manage to fund is 27%. And the main objective, the main goal of that development plan is to accelerate towards universal health coverage. Within that, we can generate enough financing mechanism to fund most of the challenges that we have. But I think now we are in the middle of these 5 years, and we don't know where universities...
Would you say, let me just throw this before we take a break, because we're supposed to. Starting with Dr. Nziva, is the money the problem?
Yes, it is a problem, but the conditions are also the problem.
No, I'm not talking about money for your salary.
Yeah.
I'm talking about money for the health sector. Is that the problem?
Yes, I think so. I want to agree that in fact, we must re-strategize. Health is a very expensive issue. Government must rethink health financing. The money that's allocated to health, the way it is being handled, honestly, leaves a lot to be desired.
And we'll pick this up after break. That's where my problem is, because I think the Ministry of health delivery in this country is over 70% externally financed.
Right.
The little money that the government of Uganda puts into the healthcare system is the money that is supposed to pay your salaries, to improve the salaries, because it's a projectized institution largely, with donor funding. The Americans are paying for ARVs, they are paying for malaria, they are paying for tuberculosis. The major killer diseases are being paid for by resources from donations. Why can't the salary bit be fixed, and why can that donor money be fixed is something I can't get my head around. Let's take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll continue this discussion. 7 days into the strike by Uganda medical workers, medical doctors, as Dr. Willington has put it, can pay fix the crisis in the health sector? We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we're discussing 7 days into the medical workers' strike. Can pay fix the crisis in the health sector? Join us in this discussion. You can send us messages. You can. We'll be opening the phone line so that you can call us and share your views and opinions about this medical workers' strike. Jose Nwabin, I believe, is in Kabuladi Antonde, says, much as the doctors can't be vindicated for striking, their issues need to be looked into. The problem is that politicians who allocate resources mind only about themselves. They know they have capacity to fly out to treat simple illnesses like flu. No wonder doctors are now turning into political activists. And Nteja Simu unfortunately can't watch us because I think Umema has cut him off. The show will be replayed. The show is being streamed live is being streamed live, and there will be a YouTube. The YouTube will be put up, will be uploaded once we're done, and of course you can watch the replay on Wednesday afternoon. Someone else says the United States government pumps $500 million in Ugandan health system every year, and Ugandan VIPs spend $300 million a year on medical tourism. Ona, this is beyond these two gentlemen. Fairly, the former director of Mulago Hospital, Dr. Kagwa, died at Mulago Hospital this last week. A week before he died, there was information circulating that he couldn't get the attention that he needed. And it becomes that desperate. Every once in a while, you'll bump into an important decision maker in the country, a politician, someone who dispenses resources, who will tell you a story, a horror story, of how they end up country, and when they need the emergency help, before the insurance, before the facilities that can take them for medical tourism kick in, to get that emergency help, and it's not available. The question is, why doesn't it get fixed? I'll give you another example. Former health minister, the late Dr. Stephen Malinga, died in his village simply because he couldn't get the kind of attention that was the basic minimum that should have been available in his area. Why? My question is, why aren't we able as a country to pick lessons, learn from them, so that we can fix?
I think because we have maintained the hypocrisy. I know this is really a raw nerve, the hypocrisy of a free healthcare. in a country where nothing else is free in terms of government, how can you, in a country where government doesn't feed citizens, doesn't house citizens, doesn't clothe citizens, those are all essential elements of life, you isolate one, the most important, called health, and then you pretend
They'll claim education too.
that the government
There's education
you
too.
could be you can be out of school, but you need to be alive. So I think either government truly puts money to health or becomes honest with citizens and says it cannot, and it finds a way in which, first of all, to create the right mindset and then put in the right mechanisms for people to take care of their health. I don't believe the current public health system, the way it's funded, will ever work.
But
People, for political expediency, they will say there's free government health care, but we all know it's not there.
But
Many people are going to private clinics deep in the villages. They go to health center 3, there is no medicine. They go to a clinic where some fake pharmacist will be the one to prescribe medicine for them. So their situation even worsens. So I think, to me, I'm a firm believer in being honest with the citizens. If we can't have enough money in health, of course some people believe there will be enough, let's find a mechanism that makes the current healthcare system mutually funded by people and by government.
You and I know.
Difficult argument to make because people
Yes,
say
you and I
government
know.
must do it, but we know
You and I
government won't
know.
do it.
I'm employed by Nation Media Group.
Yeah.
It gives me health insurance.
You see?
You are employed by Nile Breweries. They give you a good package of health care. But if you have a patient in Amuria, and if you receive a phone call, the first question you ask is not whether they have gone to Sorot Hospital or whichever is nearest. You will ask if they have gone to a clinic
Yes.
to get attention. And then you'll make arrangements to move them from Amuria to Kampala, not to go to Mulago, but to go to a private doctor, private practice. So it functionally, healthcare delivery is already in private hands. Doctor, wouldn't you say?
I totally agree.
So the problem is where government needs to intervene is to make the public healthcare system work. Some people have raised issues, and you could help me out on this, that possibly because the
I disagree.
Yeah.
I actually think government should intervene to make the private healthcare system better and slightly more affordable. Instead of concentrating on struggling with the failing public hospitals, there are private hospitals where public money should be channeled to reduce the cost of treatment for citizens. Because they have
do you gentlemen agree?
management.
Do you think that can
there
work?
is someone in that hospital who feels a sense of ownership, who is looking at his profit margins, and will make sure it's run well.
Do you think that can work?
Well, I want to disagree. I want to say that we can make our systems work. They have worked before.
Good luck.
They have worked before. When I was a primary 4, in primary 4, I remember I had a toothache. I walked to the hospital. I did it myself. I walked to the hospital and I had this extraction. Okay? These systems have been working before. They have just been run down. And I believe that if, with the correct strategies, we can resurrect these systems. I have worked in upcountry. I must say,
Yes.
I worked in upcountry hospital, where we dedicated our lives. We did cesarean sections. We did so many operations. We saved so many lives. Okay, we did that. So this system, as I said, the health system in the private sector, if you really look at the cost, let's say, of a cesarean section, probably you need 1.5 million, 2 million, okay? That would be the standard. But how many Ugandans would be able to afford that? If we said we strengthened that, it would be very difficult for individuals to afford that.
Because, doctor, the problem is that you are now acknowledging that those of you who are struggling to maintain cesarean sections affordable or free are unable to continue. You have reached a critical stage where mothers are dying. So I'm only saying, let's be more realistic. We can, if you can't fix what is totally broken, then find other alternatives.
No, why did it work before? Why isn't it working now? So where do we need to put the questions? Maybe that's what he's raising. But Dr. Willington, do you agree with the owner's suggestion? Put that money into private hands. You have major private hospitals in Kampala and upcountry and clinics. Let them have a way to access whatever little government has, and then forget about your public health facilities.
In healthcare financing, there is pooling the money together, which is the sources of funding the healthcare, and also there is what we call paying providers. So if Uganda, for example, Ugandan government had a pool, an insurance pool of money pulled into there, then private and public can compete for that money, either per diem, either pay for service, either pay per patient, such that the public and the private compete, and government gives them like vouchers, like.
Doctor, sorry, let me cut through. This debate about health insurance has been around for so long.
Absolutely.
The question is, for a government that is so heavily subsidized on private healthcare already, like we discussed just before, just a while ago, does it make sense for the small, heavily taxed, formal employed to still be asked to subsidize healthcare in this government without looking into what has made what Dr. Nzibwa says worked before become dysfunctional?
Because largely the cause of
the budget for the Ministry of Health has been growing. It's not becoming smaller.
But the population has also grown.
That's not a good excuse, because
the bulk of that budget is going to workshops and travel. It's not going to
the bulk of the Ministry of Health budget. I just read the numbers from a viewer who sent that message. We are spending $300 million sending important people to get treatment abroad. 2 MPs were violated the other day in Parliament. 2 of them ended up in hospital. 1 is in Minnesota, United States of America. Another one is in India, waiting to be paid for by the Ugandan taxpayer. Every who is who.
Is that from Ministry of Health budget?
No, it doesn't matter where the money comes from, because as a citizen, I shouldn't care where the money comes from. It comes from the taxes that we pay to take care of these people. And not to pick out those members of parliament, but whoever is important gets treatment outside of the country. If it can work in India, if it can work in Nairobi, because our first point of call is India, Nairobi, the United Kingdom, the United States, South Africa, where we get this treatment. Why can't it work here?
Let me just make a comment. If you went right now to Nsambi Hospital, let's say mother went to Nsambi Hospital now in labor and needed cesarean section, because she has her little money, 400,000 or what, everything she needs will be done for her. Okay? If you went to Kawempe now, probably you will not have that. I had an uncle who came to me and needed an eye operation. Okay? I talked to my colleagues in Mulago, and they said, yes, we can do the operation, but what you will need to buy, and imagine I'm a consultant there, what you need to buy is this, buy this, buy this. It came to 400,000 shillings. Now, the same operation to be done in Mengo Hospital was 400,000 shillings. The only thing which saved us was that site savers were doing a camp. And so my uncle ended up paying 50,000 to have the operation done. What's the point? The point is this, that yes, these systems can work. Zambia works. Go to Lacho. Services are there. If only we organize ourselves as government, I think that these hospitals can work. I mean,
how much of this what you say can work is requires internal house cleaning? How much of it requires external governmental level intervention?
Oh, actually, because that's where the policy is. I'll give you an example. The issue of sutures, where the hospitals lack these sutures. The National Medical Stores is supposed to provide this thing. It's not supposed to provide everything. But to me, it's been a disappointment. They don't provide even the small
But you
things.
see, doctor,
But,
you see, doctor, I love when you say that it works elsewhere within the country and doesn't work elsewhere.
Yes.
It's just what I've been emphasizing, that there's something called sense of ownership. You cannot have general happiness situations and expect anything to change. Human beings, unfortunately, are not motivated necessarily by goodwill all the time. They need somebody to be in charge. So I think the current health system, public, must have that sense of ownership. And you know, where people are looking at profit, of course it drives motivation, it drives efficiencies. What would drive efficiency in the current public system? Either some people know that if they deliver, as he suggested, if government, for example, said, Mulago, how many doctors, what, if you deliver to the expectation, then you have this budget to manage. If not, it will be withdrawn, other people will be put in. Otherwise, you cannot expect motivation where there are no
Don't you need
sanctions.
a more functional government to deliver that? Because Ministry of Health, like other ministries or government departments, has some of the best.
They are not
has some of the best.
They are generally not functional governments in the
policy,
world.
policy documents. Policy documents.
Yes.
I do not think, Honor, that there is a problem with the policy documents.
Not at all.
They are good. I do not think there is a problem with planning.
No.
Every department, Dr. Francis Runumi was head of planning at the Ministry of Health. They have fantastic plans. They have even a good structure to get health insurance to work. The question is, why doesn't it function? Why aren't those plans seen through to delivery? There is a question of corruption, even at the lowest level.
Right.
Those structures you're looking for, sometimes they are just made to disappear. When you speak to people at national medical stores, Moses Kamabare and his team there will tell you, we have a schedule, we have all these supplies, and we deliver them. What is where the problem is an institution like Mulago is supposed to make a request, indicate what it wants, send it to NMS, and NMS delivers. Districts are supposed to procure because they are supposed to buy. These institutions are supposed to buy. But sometimes I'm told institutions or districts want to cut corners and negotiate with Indian, Chinese suppliers who will give the same facilities at a cheaper rate, and therefore you can't get them. Sometimes systems are sabotaged. So how do you in the association, you said your demands are broader,
Yeah, absolutely.
your intentions are noble. Where and when do you begin that broad discussion that makes the deliverers of the service, who are you medical workers, but also the recipients of that service, who are us the public, get a meaningful service?
You see, Charles, the discussion has begun. We actually expected a warm reception at the Ministry of Health. To our surprise, the minister's comments you saw. What we are saying is the biggest challenge that we see, before even we tackle corruption, is that there is a very little resource envelope for the Ministry of Health. That is for the fact. Because, for example, where the donor money is being used, we have registered success. HIV, TB, malaria, we are achieving a
HIV
lot.
has been stagnating for the last how many years?
No immunization. No, people are on treatment.
Yeah.
They may not be 100%, but
Actually, you've jumped up by 1.3%. Is it about 1.3%? Because from 6% national average to about now 7.3%?
No, actually we have dropped
Uh-huh.
from 7.2 to now 6.4.
6.4.
The current prevalence has gone down. But what we are saying, we no longer see...
We'd stayed stuck at 6% for some time.
Yes.
Stagnated at 6%
Yes,
for some time.
and then went to 7.3.
Yeah, and went up.
Now we've come back. But what I'm trying to say, where there is money and good leadership and governance, we are seeing a change. But where there is no money and where the leadership of the Ministry of Health is not taking charge, we are seeing a lot of stagnation. Because the donor money right away, for example, there is huge involvement of the donor in management of these services. For example, HIV, the implementing partners have taken over. Infectious Disease Institute, Baylor, directly under the supervision of either CDC or USAID.
Because your systems are dysfunctional, they can't trust you to deliver.
So what we are
Or you
saying
get
is
lost in the
leadership
same-
and governance is also an issue that it needs to be. But my other question is, does the leadership at the Ministry of Health have the power?
Dr. Nzevua,
Yes.
you were part of that meeting with the president. You articulated some of these issues. You said he appreciated them. But As a young journalist, more than 10 years ago, I was smuggled into Mulago. As I think, the plan was that I would appear like an intern and sit in one of those meetings when there was a strike over the same issues. You had the major strike, the last one was 1995, a national strike in 1995. Now, from 1995 to now, how many years later? 25 years later, we're still having the same discussion, same issues.
Yes, as you correctly put it, we have very good policies, very good plans, but never implemented. You know, this issue of interns, I mean, it even beats my head. It should not have even reached this level. You know, the president correctly put it, we are just not doing our planning. Okay? Now, it's like this. Interns, the Ministry of Health should have catered for them together with the hospitals. Their money should be ring-fenced, but you don't know what is happening. And yet, this is a very, very, very important period in the life of a doctor. Okay? But for me, I put it squarely, the fault squarely, on our Ministry of Health and the hospitals that are supposed to...
Which all are run by doctors, and it's actually amazing that doctors are the only people who know what it means to actually cut out something.
True.
And throw it away if it's a problem. They amputate people, they cut people, but you are having systems that they are just massaging. They are not willing to cut out what needs to be amputated. Both at the ministry and in the hospital.
You can't do surgery on yourself. You're good at doing surgery on other people. You can't do surgery on yourself.
The issue of interns, Charles, is a very painful issue. Because why should, honestly, for God's sake, at the end of the year after year, the Ministry of Health does not even know the number of intern doctors that are getting churned out by medical schools?
Interns are students, aren't they?
No,
really.
They're not. It's the first level of practice called junior house officers. Everybody has gone through it, including the minister.
they still have to go through a licensing process. So if they haven't gone through the licensing process, it means they're
no,
still
actually
students.
you have a probational license to practice. You have a partial practicing license by Uganda Medical and Dental Practitioners Council.
So you can't make the same demands as a qualified
No,
doctor.
they actually don't make demands. They are paid an amount of money to do that kind of work. And if you have been in
a
Malawi,
statement,
in
your
principle,
minister,
yes.
the Minister of Health, said intern doctors will be paid the same rate they were paid last year.
You know,
They're the money for more.
No, do you know what caused that? This industry action. Because when we met the ministry leadership, they said the number of interns has increased. So we are going to divide by the denominator, which is the number of interns. If this year there have been 500 and now there are 1,000, the factor will be the pay for the intern. Now can you imagine? If an intern has been on 750...
And what's the doctor-patient ratio in this country?
It's 1 to 70,000.
170,000?
Yes.
And the ministry is uncomfortable because you're having more doctors coming through the pipeline.
Not
to
really.
Be able to provide
the normal should be 1 to 30.
Yes.
1 to 30,000.
No, I'm saying if you have a ratio of 1 to 70,000, and the ministry says we're going to divide by the factor of interns and the man available, it means there's lack of preparedness to bridge.
Thank you.
To bridge the gap.
Yes. So why should the Minister of Health or whoever really stand and say that we have little money because we didn't know the number was going to increase? Yet the National Council of Higher Education every year is opening a medical school in each corner of the country. So there is a lot of disconnectedness between our ministry and other actors in the healthcare system.
Dr. Nsifu, does that surprise you? Because, I mean, is it not shocking? Should it not be shocking? Because Dr. Ruth Acheng, Jen Ruth Acheng, who's the Minister of Health now, was Director of General Services?
Director General of Health
Director General of Health Services, not very long ago. And I remember interviewing her when at the peak of the nodding disease in northern Uganda. And she challenged me and said, have you held in your hands a dying person to know how we feel as doctors? But then she was on at a different level. Today, when I listen to Dr. Cheng, I'm wondering, is this the same person I spoke to a few years ago? So, Dr. Nzivua, with all due respect, you have reached the highest levels of your practice and of your training, but you also have opportunity to discuss with some of these people, either as colleagues, as former students. Why is this kind of discussion happening? You know, Dr. Diana Twine, who is permanent secretary, was given a responsibility to run the health monitoring team. She found a lot of rot. And people have been waiting and asking, why hasn't this been fixed? That experience, why hasn't it come into... What's the explanation?
You know, those people are best to answer those questions. but for me, I remember when Dr. Turomwe was in charge of clinical services. For him, interns were priority. I think the issue is interns are not being taken as priority, senior house officers are not being taken as priority, and for me, I would compare them with cadets. You know, like in the army, they are cadets. Okay? Absolutely. They've just finished their basic training. They are now in the field. We call them cadets.
Cadets don't make demands, do they?
Yeah?
These cadets don't make demands.
You pay them. You know why they're not making demands? Because they are well catered for. In fact, these are like babies who should be looked after very well.
But I need to go back to the same question. You've had these discussions year on year, year on year. Why don't they deliver?
That is also my question. Why isn't Ministry of Health sorting out this issue of interns?
No,
it baffles me.
No, it's not only interns that are on strike. Senior medical officers, doctors are also on strike this time round, aren't they?
Yeah, their conditions, as I mentioned, conditions of work. I mean, I'll tell you, my salary as a consultant. The other day I was in I was in some country. I couldn't even afford breakfast in the what? In the hotel. I had to go and look for the Sauriakos of that city. I, as a consultant.
No, the problem is you did conversion. You're not supposed to convert when you're in outside country.
No, but I didn't go with it. I mean, if you look at
to compare foreign currency with Ugandan currency.
But that is it. My salary cannot sustain me.
How much do they pay you as a senior consultant?
Oh, and then I get
consultant pathologist.
Oh yeah, I got about 2.2. But remember, half of that goes to service my salary loan, which I took for building a house. So at the end, I have 1.1.
So you don't get anything?
Yes, I get like 1.1. Now I must start budgeting this. Okay, how much do I put for fuel to come to work? How much of this can I save for school fees? I mean, it's just the mathematics.
So how much would be ideal for you? What would be reasonable?
Oh, for me as a consultant, if government paid me 6 million, that's my home takeaway. Now, okay, I would say this is the one that I can barely survive.
For me, when I listen to doctor, I really feel sad because for me, I don't believe doctors should be appealing to government. And you have actually now allowed government to consider you just another irritant. And government has actually boxed the public health doctors into, and just one of the people you can sometimes pay attention to something. I mean, doctors should really be, they have so much power because they're having our health in their hands. And you people need to regain that power. You know, you have everyone's health in their hands, and first create a sense in the public that they need their health to be priority. I think health in this country, people do not believe is a priority. It's a by the way.
Yeah.
You only worry. I'm told there are situations where someone can be lying on the floor in Mulago and they have some money on them, but they are waiting for a non-existent medicine and what have you. Because it's a state of mind. They are worrying about going to buy something else with that money than saving themselves. So I don't agree with this notion that Ugandans should not be involved in taking care of their health. I think above everything else they should. But the government needs to debunk this notion that is providing free health care. And the doctors must participate in making that argument.
And that's the question. Where Ugandans on this strike,
Yeah.
What is the kind of discussion going on with the general public?
Yeah.
And the people are supposed to make decisions at different levels. Let me take some messages from Andrew Karamaji as we take a break. Andrew Karamaji says, deliberately transitioning from a curative to a preventive healthcare system would also go a long way in securing a robust health regime. The bedrock of such a solution, however, rests with fresh political leadership right from the top that demonstrably cares about the well-being and dignity of Ugandans. He goes on to say, my point being that a preventive healthcare system would look at public health issues like air and water quality, nutrition, and dietetics. That way, we wouldn't spend on many of these majorly bacterial infections. Yet again, this kind of transition can only be marshaled by fresh political leadership that understands and has the will to deliver as much. And finally, can somebody disband that alien, illegitimate, and unlawful creature called the Health Monitoring Unit? Why should State House continue creating parallel units that usurp a whole ministry's mandate with impunity? Again, the crisis rests with politics. I don't know if you gentlemen agree with him. And Wamboga Mugiria says, Wamboga is a master of very long messages. So Wamboga, I don't know where to start from. For long, government has pretended to pay medical work, and medical workers have pretended to work while they fleeced off their patients. These wrongs cannot be sustained. I partially agree with my old good friend Onapito that while citizens get everything for themselves, when it comes to healthcare, we expect it free from government. And as far as I'm concerned, government finds this public dependency a good excuse and opportunity to get votes on empty promises. Ugandans pretendedly afford their own transport, education, clothes, shelter, incomes, and security while they pay taxes. But as the saying goes, you can pretend or fool some people for some time, but you cannot pretend or fool everybody all the time. Both sides have pretended for so long that it has burst. It couldn't go on any longer. Same thing has gone on with teachers, Makerere University lecturers, plus other civil servants. Sooner or later, not later, Uganda will grind to a halt. And will the well-catered for political class thrive alone as an island in a sea of mess? Politicians should be put on the warning. We are on a time bomb. Time for pretense has reached the end. Okay, we need to take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll interrogate this. I am told that when Makerere University lecturers went on strike, those who are doing the same work as you're doing, teaching medical workers at Mulago, got better pay, and you guys are still
That's right.
struggling.
That's very
Let's take a
right.
break. When we come back,
Yeah.
we'll be opening the lines
I thought you were all
for...
teachers.
Huh?
Welcome back to this last segment of the Fourth Estate. The number will be on your screen shortly. Call us and share your views and opinions with us. Can pay fix the crisis in the healthcare, in the health sector, rather? We have been unable to discuss the broader issues within other professional bodies, especially the prosecutors who have been on strike now almost 2 months. Courts remain almost dysfunctional because prosecutors are demanding higher pay. There is talk, and there's been warning that lecturers in public universities will be going on strike. Makerere, I think, has they have warned that they might go on strike very soon, which is cyclical. It happens almost every year. You expect it that it will happen, and people will go on strike. But I needed to respond to some of the messages. The people who believe that both you, the medical workers, and the government have been pretending. Every time there's a strike, there's something, this comes up. And which goes to where we started our discussion, that even where you report to work, you call it a slow strike. You're pretending to offer service, government is pretending to pay you a salary or give you allowances. This is not sustainable. For how long can this go on?
And that's why...
And you have a responsibility to try and fix this.
True. That's why Uganda Medical Association is saying this is a new beginning of a functioning healthcare system in Uganda. We want to sit on the table with
That's
government.
sloganeering.
No, not really. What I'm trying to say
Mm.
is, as Onapito has put it, we cannot fix this healthcare system without money. Government must come out and say, healthcare is a very expensive social service, and somebody must pay for it. Either government or the funder out there, or the patient must foot their healthcare bills. And for example, if one patient or one Ugandan contributed 10,000 shillings annually, we are not always sick at the same time. Cross-subsidization happens, and those that are not sick subsidize for those who are not sick, who can get money and fix those who are sick and fix the healthcare system. But I don't know why the government is hiding behind a curtain of free medical care. And actually, the healthcare is not free.
I want to go back to what Dr. Nzivu said.
Yes.
It has worked before. Why doesn't it work now?
Oh yeah, you see, your first question was, if the pays were increased, would it work? Yes, that's part of the solution. Okay? For instance, my class I started in medical school. Half of them are out of this country. They are earning much. What they're earning now? Maybe 20 times my salary. Okay? The assets they have, the kids they're sending to school and so on. Yes, if you want health care, even if it's insurance, the secret is the healthcare workers. If they are there to provide the services, first, the patients will be happy. Of course, then the facilities for them to offer the services. Now, I want to shock you. One of the things I do is diagnosing cancer. Okay? And I diagnose this cancer using a microscope. Okay? The microscope I had died 1.5 years ago. I have called Murago. I have called my head of department. I need a microscope so that I can diagnose cancers. You know, up to now, nobody has given me a microscope.
You've written a pathology report of your microscope.
So that's why actually, that's why paying alone cannot fix the healthcare. Paying us alone. So we must have an environment that enables us to manage the patients.
Why is it that the pay is the most outstanding thing of this strike?
Not really. I think the media has pulled it out, but number one reason is working environment. Yes.
Andrew Irumba is watching us and says, I'm looking at a scenario when an S3 dropout resident district commissioner is supervising a doctor who spent 5 years on training. I am also looking at Jennifer Msisi's, Jennifer Msisi doesn't own these drivers, a KCCA driver, laughing at these doctors over his cup of coffee for wasting resources for 5 years. Dr. Willington here works at his council at KCCA, so maybe. Someone here, okay. The health system in Uganda cannot be privatized. Majority of people would not afford. Health insurance is necessary for those who can afford. Poor people must be subsidized by the state.
Yes.
But this can only be done by a pro-people state, not a neo-patrimonial and kleptocratic state. The issue at the end of the day must be resolved politically, not technically. Compare with Tanzania, Rwanda, the United Kingdom, and other countries. And this is a message from Professor Baria. I don't know which Baria, but it's a message from Professor Baria. Let me pick some callers and then we'll come back into the studio. Hello? Do you have a call online? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from? Keep your question or comment brief.
Kasozi.
Yes,
Calling
Kasozi.
from Luzira.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
First of all, I would like to correct the gentleman in studio. The doctor-to-patient ratio in Uganda is 24,000. And World Health Organization recommends 1 to 1,000.
24,000. You said 24,000?
Yes. 24,000 doctor-to-patient ratio. Then World Health Organization recommends 1 to 1,000.
1 to 1,000, okay.
Yes, not 1 to 30,000 as we had earlier said. My second comment is I strongly believe that I think it's not only salaries that are very critical to the doctors. A year ago, they paid 2.5 million to doctors in health center force. But many of them are not in these health center force. Many of them went back to school after they paid them 2.5 million. So the gentleman in studio, I think, should not over-argue about salaries, but I think other fringe benefits should be looked into. Paying a lot of money to doctors, others just decide to go to school, and then money is just wasted.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kasozi. Do you have another caller? Hello? Hello? Do you have a caller? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, Morocco Willis. I'm calling from Buya, Kampala.
Yes, please. The name again?
I very sympathize with these doctors. They are, yes, I'm hearing you also.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Their strike actually is very legitimate. It has even long for some time because they should even have done it one time. Ugandans already are suffering. Every other time you go to a public hospital, you don't find the facilities you need. Instead, you are referred to a private sector. So you really wonder why the borders of these public facilities really to workers, you know, why government cannot really sustain them. It's really a shame.
Thank you. Hello? We have a call online. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Chunda calling from Nakawa.
Dr. Sunda?
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it is really, it's hard when we hear people saying that, you know, doctors are not patriotic. But if you've been patriotic for the last 20 years, working in very hard conditions, really, we do a lot of work, and some people who are actually just, you know, do less for the country are getting a lot. And it really makes, you know, it makes us really feel very demotivated sometimes.
Okay.
Yet we offer a lot of care to this country. We even pick in our pockets to help these patients.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so this, yeah.
Thank you. Anthony is watching us, says Uganda is a signatory to the Abuja Declaration from 2001. Signatories essentially pledged to spend 15% of national budget on healthcare. Why are we allocating less than 10% 17 years later? He says, we all know healthcare is very expensive globally. So why did the cost sharing scheme end? And another question, why do we prioritize other issues like Jikwateko, anti-riot police trucks over the healthcare of our people? And a few years back, I think the doctor-patient ratio was close to 1 to 24,000, and WHO recommended ratio is 1 to 1,000, like the gentleman from Luzira told us. Thank you, Anthony, for your message. Someone else here says, Uganda is bleeding. A government can speak with political eloquence to maintain their melting holy appearance, but the fact is addressing health issues is not a priority to them. You can imagine, despite your invitation, no one was willing to appear on the show to explain to Ugandans efforts being done to address the challenge. One would have expected the president to cancel any other program and meet striking doctors as a matter of urgency, but he chose secondary at expense of poor Ugandans. I'm 100% behind doctors. This strike was too long overdue. Otherwise, I pray that the Honorable Anita's call in our Maje to treat, praise that Honorable Anita calls in the Maje to treat our people. Another Lincoln Sayuni in Kisasi says, medical workers' strike should be embraced by every health-loving Ugandan. Whereas the primary cause of is agitation for better working conditions, in due course, they also expose their flaws in service delivery, such as absenteeism, bribery, lackluster performance, among others. I pray that all their grievances are solved such that we have an edge to charge them for better services. Someone else here says, JK in Imbara says, thanks for the program, Charles, and your group in the studio. It's to get money to pay health workers, but money for bribing MPs can be got in 1 week, but it has taken 30 years without thinking about the health workers and voters that put them in those offices. Note, A health center 4 gets 40 million to cater for the whole constituency for the whole year, but some guys in government gets that money in 1 month as a salary. I don't know whether the president knows this. Please, please, think about your people. Stop pretending. I don't know whose message this one is. Someone else here says, I'm meant to believe in what one political commentator keeps on saying, that there is a surgical operation by an invisible hand in government systems and departments which is meant to bring the regime down. What is this? Strike after the other. Whoever is behind the strikes, he is gradually achieving his or her goal, which I believe is to make sure that the public hates the regime until a time the general population will rise up and bring the regime to an end. Honor, you hear this? Let me pick one caller. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
This is Raymond. I'm calling from Rubaga.
Yes, Raymond, keep your question or comment brief.
Okay. So, thanks a lot to everyone that is in the studio. My statement is directed to you, the host, actually.
Yes, please.
You said something about interns not being in a position to make demands. That hurt me so much, having been an intern myself a while back. Most people don't realize that when they go to a hospital, chances are they will leave that hospital without seeing anyone else except an intern.
Yes.
An intern is very important. They finish university. Most of them are even graduated. So let's accord them the respect they deserve.
Thank you, Raymond. I'll respond to that. The argument is, if someone is interning, they're still students. So as students, they haven't completed the cycle. But these doctors in studio say, what you have as medical interns or junior house officers are actually qualified doctors. They have graduated. They're like in a transition. If you're at law school, you've graduated with your degree, you need to get a law development center to get a practicing license. But that doesn't take away the fact that you're trained as a lawyer. Is that the correct position?
That's right.
Rama Omonya says, free health and free education are political tools used to sedate the citizens. Try to make citizens pay and the current establishment will have nothing to show. I can bet that government is not about to reintroduce cost sharing for both, because the majority who vote are rural folks who don't know about your economic growth, etc. Free health is all they can show, if that is offered anyway. I think we need to come back to studio. Let me take one more caller. Hello? Hello? The earlier message from Professor Varia was Professor John Jean Varia of Makerere University. Hello? Hello? I think that one, I think the call is dropping. One of those doctors said he requested his colleagues in Mulago to do an eye operation, which they agreed to, but demanding 400,000 as cost of what to use. To me, the government should now allocate the same amount to every patient in Mulago. Short of that, the situation will remain the same. Bernard Mpeirwe. Gentlemen, we need to come back to studio and bring this discussion to an end. You've listened to the people watching us. Thank you for the correction for the two gentlemen. Anthony is in the US and Kasozi in Luzira, who gave us the correct ratios, statistics on doctor-patient ratios. You hear the discussion on?
Yeah, I hear the discussion, Charles, and for me the main string in the discussion is the expectations from government, which are totally justified. But most contributors come to the same conclusion, that the government is at most pretending that it's giving this health care. Maybe it's well-intentioned, but it's beyond its capacity. And it doesn't want to let citizens know that the hard reality is they should contribute. So if citizens know this, and they value their health more than listening to what a public official will tell them, they need, and the doctors need to contribute to this debate, they need to become willing to say, we shall wait for government, but in the meantime, this cross-subsidization to me is the magic. What would be the equivalent amount of 10,000 per annum per citizen How many times would it outstrip the current so-called budget of means of health? But above all, it will empower patients. The biggest tragedy of patients in public health in this country is lack of power. You go to a hospital and basically you are begging people who also unfortunately are powerless in their own way. So we need to empower patients.
How?
If 10,000,
How do you empower them?
just all, if contributing 10,000 per annum constitutes an empowerment by way of having a card, you go to a hospital as a contributor. You are not going to a hospital in the current state.
So someone asked that question or try to answer that question.
And look,
How
there are
does that
now
align-
very
how does
modern
that align-
systems.
how
Look,
does that
there are
align
very
with-
modern
Yes.
systems of actually taking this kind of money into an investment fund which becomes self-perpetuating. Very, very well managed systems that could even be outside the public service management.
We need to have a whole discussion about that.
Yeah, we should have it.
Later.
For me,
but
what
someone-
makes me
someone
sad,
asked-
what makes me sad is to say because our people are so poor, we should actually allow them to die. When at the same time we know that even within their poverty, they can contribute something like 10,000
I think
per annum.
the question someone was raising, how does that align with the politics? Because you had cost sharing.
But I've told you,
and
the
when
politics
people pay-
must be defeated.
Let me
If
come
the
in
politics
for-
is self-serving and is going to lead to people dying,
Charles,
then that politics must
on,
be
Yes,
defeated.
on cost sharing, I think the viewers must understand this, and us in the studio. Cost sharing was found actually to reduce the number of patients seeking care. Because it was paid daily, a patient went to access care. So by way of evidence and research, we don't want the reintroduction of cost
No.
sharing. But annual pay
You need a
of
one-off.
10,000, one-off, I think we didn't have a problem.
Can we trust where that money goes? Who manages
That's
that money?
another question.
Yes,
Or
because-
another-
But that's the debate that has
No,
to be
I
carried
wouldn't-
out.
When we're debating health insurance, my bigger question was, if government looks at these public monies as low-hanging fruit, you've seen the efforts to get access to NSSF money over the years. Do you think that the government has the willingness, the capacity, and the morality and ethics to be able to manage that money?
But again, you are
for
putting
health
too
insurance?
much faith in government.
That's
We
what the
need to
government
start
wants.
thinking of other means in which such monies can be managed without involving government. That's what doctors should engage themselves in.
Dr.
The
Nzivu,
doctors should be the ones who manage that kind of money.
Dr. Nzivu, as we bring this show to an end, you hear the sentiment of the people watching us. They sympathize with you, but there are significant questions about your own attitude towards work as medical practitioners and what service you deliver even in the circumstances where you are. One of the ugliest stories that we have experienced not long ago is of that cancer patient who was transferred on referral to Mulago and spent a whole weekend in the compound and couldn't get paid attention. Get attention, ended up dying. I mean, these are experiences people get on a daily basis. And therefore, anybody who can afford a little, who can call a relative in Kampala to get some money, take them into a private care, they'll go to private care. They'll not come to a public facility, whether you have what you need to do the work or not. How are you addressing that as an association? How are you addressing that as
Maybe to answer that, I'll give you my solutions. I think first and foremost, as we've all agreed, the issue here is political. There must be a political solution to this problem. Without that, we're wasting our time. The political solution includes, like, what powers do you give to the national medical stores? What funds do you give to the hospitals? But above all, what is the strategy for health financing? This must be addressed. You know that healthcare, as we mentioned, is very expensive, so funds must be provided to cater for this. And of course, there must be good planning and implementation of the plans. But you cannot do this if there are no health audits. One of the biggest weaknesses we have are to audit the system regularly. Okay? So, auditing will lead to accountability. So, if we streamline all this, we'll bring health back to its proper footing. The issue of the cancer patient who ended up dying there, those are very sad things. But if you go to Cancer Institute, the number of patients and the number of health workers, you will sympathize with those health workers. Okay? And of course, organizational structure. The organization, that is also something that we
But that
should
was
do.
one example. You have examples in Mubende, a woman goes to give birth and can't be helped because they are demanding for this. You have examples in Ginger. You have examples all over the country.
That's why I'm saying we need health audits.
Of course, we don't condone medical malpractice or neglect of duty. But if 70% of the cause of neglect of duty is lack of what to use, really statistically, you can see government is also to blame. Secondly, we've seen the chain of generating a health worker. Medical schools are mushrooming day in, day out. The accreditation of these medical schools, we don't know. The standards of those medical schools. Now from there, the councils, the Uganda Medical and Dental Practitioners Council, Nursing Council, are just licensing. They are hugely understaffed that you find the only working person in a council is a registrar, the rest are volunteers. So the enforcement wing, the quality assurance department of the Ministry of Health is not working. So the professional and ethics of health workers really also need to be looked into.
Okay, let me just take one last message. Someone says, professors, doctors, scientists, and lawyers used to be good examples for young people. Every young man aspired to become any of the listed. Today, the admiration and applause goes to the corrupt and smart robbers in government positions. What if we all decide to give impunity a chance? Kona, can you answer him? Can you answer this person? Give impunity a chance. Our time is out. Just before you, just to mention, the Uganda Medical Association organized a major conference. I think it was held, I don't know if it was in this hotel, in September. Was it in September? So, yeah, not very long ago. Organized a major to have a discussion on the broad issues that affect healthcare delivery.
Right.
Where did that discussion end?
But you see, Charles, even if we discuss and cows come home, you know where the power lies. The issue of healthcare is there must be a political will to fix healthcare system. Without that, we can't discuss. There is a lot of research and policy interface. There is a huge gap. People are doing studies to know what works in healthcare, but what is implemented is totally different.
The Minister of Health has become a black hole that keeps swallowing doctors.
Okay, one last question to you, gentlemen. Is there an end in sight for this strike? What's going on?
No, it's we are waiting. The strike cannot be called off until our demands are met. We have an appointment with the President of the Republic of Uganda on 17th. We are going to have a discussion and see what comes out.
Okay, we'll wait and we'll be watching, and we'll keep our viewers updated.
Take costed proposals to the President.
No, we have done that.
And try to argue for.
But the President has told us that he's on our side, and time and again, the civil servants don't listen.
Gentlemen, our time is out. And unlike the medical workers' strike, this show has a time to end. we got to bring this show to an end. Thank you very much, Dr. Sylvester Nzivua, for making time for the show. Thank you very much, Dr. Willington Tuhire.
Tuhire.
Yeah. Thank you very much for making time for the show, and thank you very much, my colleague, Ona Peter Komole. Thank you very much to you all our viewers for joining us tonight and always, and especially those who give us feedback, and each one of you who watch this show and who watches the show. This discussion continues on our social media channels, on Twitter, on Facebook, and of course the video will be uploaded on YouTube, and you can watch a repeat on Wednesday afternoon. Thank you very much to the production crew that stay up late to deliver this show to you. From me, it's a good night.